Ladies and gentlemen, back for his last night here at Silverdocs tonight, the star with his own pair of virgin tail panties, Mr. AJ Schnack.
He's sexy and I know it. Scott is such a great technical director that he did give me these awesome virgin tail pair of underwear. Is virgin? What is Virgin Tails? Your life story. It's a film here at this. My life story. Wow. Well, good night, everybody.
Am I?
We've got an amazing show for you tonight. It's kind of for our final night. We tried to pull out all the stops, and thanks everyone for coming out for it. We've got some amazing guests. We have DJs tonight. Please welcome from Hot Docs, the director of programming, Charlotte Cook, as well as the co-director of one of my favorite films of the year, Only the Young, Jason Tippett. Say hello to them back in the corner.
Thank you. On the ones and twos all night.
They will be, you guys are going by a special name tonight, aren't you?
We're Justice, and we're lowering the tone with our bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's you guys are chugging. I love this, that you are like, you were going old school, which is good, because, you know, we're all old school tonight. It's a Detroit themed night. As I said on Twitter tonight, you're going to hear the roar of our engines. And we'll start that off with our guest mixologist for the night, back for her second year in a row, the one and only Liz Ogilvy.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And what are we doing? Well, what are we doing tonight? You have like so many items here.
I did this last year when Steve James was here for the Interrupters, and I decided I would really go all out. And I thought, why not do it again tonight? So I'm going to be muddling. I'm going to be shaking. And I figured I would give a little nod to the film DETROPIA, and so this is called The Motor City. And basically it's bourbon. You know, I'll give you a kick. We've got some simple syrup. We've got mint. We've got sugar. We've got lemon. It's everything, and it's going to be so alcoholic. You'll all be dancing afterwards.
Fantastic. It does sound a little bit like a mint julep.
It's not a mint julep.
Not a mint julep?
No.
No. Okay.
It is definitely not a mint julep.
All right.
Anyway,
as long as it doesn't have curry in it.
It's going to be yum.
All right. Let's get it started. Please welcome the directors of DETROPIA, Heidi Ewing and Rachel Grady. Come to the stage, ladies.
We run this mother. Yeah. We run this mother. Yeah. We run this mother. Yeah. We run this mother.
He told me this was going to be in his bedroom and no one was going to be watching. I swear to God. I have the email for proof. We're shocked.
You never read your emails. It's clear.
I did this. Okay, let's go. We got
How
a
are
screen
things?
to get to.
How are things? You do have a screening to get to. Is this your first screening here at Silverdocs? Your 541st for the year?
540.
All right. Sorry.
And it's 7:30 tonight. Yeah, DETROPIA is our first screening at Silverdocs tonight, and at the Roundhouse.
And this is a film you guys have been working on for a little while. It seems like, and there was a while where it was called Detroit Hustles Harder, which I thought was a terrific name. DETROPIA is a terrific name too. Can you talk about that a little bit? What was that? Was that just one drunken night where you guys were like, I don't know, Detroit Hustles Harder, I don't know.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? When you make documentaries, you can't control them, and things change, and they're organic, and the story changed, and we found.
And they stopped hustling?
No, Detroit does hustle.
Because
it does hustle.
It does.
And we all hustle.
A Motor City for you.
Oh, you're the
A little Motor
bartender.
City for
This is
you.
so crazy. So it's like a weird fever dream.
Here we go.
Wow.
Enjoy.
But
This
it
is cool
it
talk
wasn't
show.
the right name. It wasn't the right name for our film, so we changed it.
And did you go? Was there something in between Detroit Hustles Harder?
There was
and
like
DETROPIA?
40 in
Oh
between.
my God, there was like 50. Like
Can you-
every Motown song.
What are some?
Yeah.
What are some of them?
Embarrassed by a few, but because
No,
it's
come on.
you, we're gonna
Yeah,
tell
come on.
you.
Give me the worst ones.
Pastime Paradise.
Pastime Paradise. I know, corny.
No, that's
The
good.
View
Wonder.
from Here, forgettable. Oh,
Detroit
I want
Hustles
you
Harder
back.
was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Detroit
It was
Hustles Harder
awesome.
was great. But we didn't want to set up the expectation that it's just a boosterism movie, that everything's fine in Detroit. We didn't make the M&M commercial. We don't make Super Bowl commercials. We spent 3 years on the ground there, and Detroit is much more complex than just hustling harder. We're talking about like national crises. Detroit has succumbed to that the rest of the country hopefully won't. So we didn't want to go down with it was a pithy, but it didn't feel accurate anymore. Whereas Detropia, it's like Detroit could be, is it a utopia? Is it a dystopia? Is it a place in transition?
Is it in myopia?
Maybe. Right. So it leaves, I didn't get that till now, but a lot of barefoot white
didn't take you that
wine.
long.
And so we decided to change it, and we like the new title. We made up a new word instead.
Great. Well, I'm a big fan. I love the film a lot, and you guys tend to do decent work.
Thanks, man.
I think you got a career in this business.
Thanks.
So how did you guys meet?
We worked for another filmmaker who we...
Can we say who it is?
His name is Jonathan Stack.
Made The Farm.
And
Love that film.
other...
Great.
Yeah, it's a
So
great
there's
film.
no one in here that he owes money.
Does he owe you money?
Don't like the filmmaker.
Maybe.
He might owe us money.
You don't like the filmmaker?
Well, he doesn't pay, obviously. So
Right.
just
All right,
putting
there
it
you
out
go.
there,
Oh, we had a great time working for him.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And the first film that we made together, or that we worked on for him, was about the Church of Scientology, which was awesome. Very fun, and it was a great film for us to work on, so we could kind of understand the other person's sense of humor,
We had the
sensibility.
same sense of humor. We were prank calling the Church of Scientology at 2 in the morning, and we were like in our 20s, and we had been given a budget to make a film we didn't know how to make, and we got along like a house on fire, and thought a few years later, let's start a business, which we did a few weeks before 9/11 in my kitchen with mice and the whole deal, and we've been having a great time ever since, and it's really, we're very, very lucky. And Liz, this is a great drink.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
I'm
I'm
really-
actually
I'm-
breaking
I'm-
out into sweat.
This is
It's
a
actually
drink
really
from
fun
before the show and not yours. So I would really, I'd love one
Whatever
if
you need, AJ.
if you have
I'm
the
there.
moment.
I thought I would just
over there.
keep our DJ happy. So
The DJs
got one.
have one. Well, that's good. They also have a.
Just keep chatting.
Yeah, I'll keep
Okay.
chatting.
Julia. Don't worry.
Anyway, so you made your first film was Boys.
The Boys of Baraka, the first one we made
Right.
together.
I was worried there that suddenly that there was a missing film that I didn't know about.
The Missing Archives? No, that was our first film together.
And so what's changed for you guys between that film and just being out in the world and being on the festival land and getting your film in theaters? Obviously the business has changed a bunch. You guys are doing something new with Detropia in terms of like you've started a Kickstarter so you can do your own theatrical campaign. Is that what's changed? Just the distribution, or?
Well, it's so much as I think as you gain confidence over the years with your films, you're less afraid to look at the business side of it. I think a lot of us documentary filmmakers don't like dealing with the business side. It's not fun raising money. It's not fun dealing with budgets and how you're going to get your. But part of the responsibility of making a movie is following it through, getting it seen. Why were you on the ground for 3 years if you're not going to bring it to the people who most want to see it? And with Detropia, 3 to 5 markets, LA, New York, and a few others wasn't going to cut it for us. What about Cleveland? What about Dayton? What about these other cities that are calling us that want to see the film? Buffalo. And so we said, you know what?
Which should resonate for all those
It
places, right?
exactly.
Because they're all like feeling.
And what a shame if it's
the
only
Rust
in the
Belt.
Bay Area, which should be in the Bay Area, but not just the Bay, So we said, we looked at each other, we said, let's, we got to be grown-ups now, and let's not be afraid. Let's figure another way out. I guess we should have thought about this 3 years ago and budgeted for it. We didn't. Let's go to Kickstarter. Let's see if the people want to see it. We raised our money in 11 days, and we're taking it to at least 25 cities in the fall, and it's exciting for us. And so I think what's changed is just looking the business straight in the face and saying, all right, you don't have to take every bad deal that comes your way. You don't have to take anything that comes your way. You can sort of, it's a time to reinvent, and we're trying it. And so I think that's what's mostly changed for us. I don't think the filmmaking has changed a great deal.
On a different angle, creatively, what's changed is I think we're a lot.
Are you better?
I don't know if we're better because we keep on trying to change.
You do things. Your films look different. They feel different.
They look different. We try and work with different people. Of course, we try and also work with. We have the same editor. We work with the same editor on all 4 films. But I think we're tougher on ourselves.
Yeah.
Our standard is rising for ourselves. So, you know, it's getting harder.
Yeah, and if it's not a departure, we might not do it. You know, we really are trying to stretch creatively and grow.
That's great, because I don't think
better.
that like a lot of successful filmmakers think about that as much as just, you know, like, I'm not saying that they're not trying to do something new, but all of your films feel really unique and different, and they're you, but they're of a piece.
Well, we both have very short attention spans.
Your ADHD out of control. So, you know, guys, you were in the New York Times article about duos, and in that same article, Bill and Turner Ross talk about like coming to fisticuffs. So, have you ever come to fisticuffs? And physical violence, has there ever been physical violence? And if there was a fight, who would win? And can we see it right now?
All right, let's break this down. No, we've never had a physical fight.
Yet.
I think Heidi would kick my ass. But like any relationship, there are ups and downs.
Of course, yeah. No, you're spending a lot of time together.
We spend a lot of fucking time together.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy time. And
but it takes forever to make a documentary.
Yeah,
it's so much
so
work. It's so nice to split it up.
If you don't like who you're working with, you gotta dump them big time because oh my, including the DPs and everybody. Because man, oh man, it's
Life's too short.
Wow, too short. Yeah. So we do have a blast. It's dramatic. It's the high lows and high highs and low lows, and I don't think we'd have it any other way.
Well, I love you girls. You have a screening. Please give it up once again for Heidi, Ewing, Rachel, Grady. Woo! It was easy breezy, as I told you.
Awesome.
And I love sitting on this on this large stool in the middle of the set. It did support me. We were questioning that for a little while. So, thank you. Give another. You can really praise the people. Can we just say, and they're not here, but the folks, this set is absolutely the most insane thing in the world, and I can't believe that they made it last year, and I'm so glad that they put it in storage. And my offer is, as long as the set and the chairs exist, I'll come back and do this if you want me to.
Did you pick out the color scheme?
I didn't know. This was all a fucking surprise. And an amazing one, by the way.
You're needing to get like a velour suit or something. Or
no, that's true. There should. I really think
there,
maybe since this has now been built and this money has been spent, maybe we can put a little $300 away for some Salvation Army time.
$300?
Well, you know, some crazy '70s Herb Tarlin. What was his name on WKRP in Cincinnati? Wow, I'm old. Sorry, Herb Carlin. Yeah, Tarlick. Yeah. Thank you, Don. That was something that looks like this kind of.
Yes, and you make sure you get
clash.
a rash afterwards.
Yeah, I should clash and rash.
Yes.
Indeed. Speaking of, our next guest. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm very excited to bring up our next guest. She's a veteran of many films and a significant journey in our documentary world. She's got 2 films that she co-directed at this year's Silverdocs Film Festival. Please welcome to the stage Susan Froemke. Before we start with that, I just have to say, I found out this the other night, which I did not know, and I don't know if you knew this. Did you know that Katy Perry's cat is named Kitty Purry?
I had no idea.
That's kind of amazing, right? It makes you want to go see the film now, doesn't it?
Why not?
Yeah, sure. How are you?
I'm great, actually. It's the first time I've been to Silverdocs.
It's the first time. So what? Now you have obviously, you've been in our world for.
This is a virgin Motor City.
Oh, very nice.
I'll take the real thing.
Will.
Oh, she wants the real thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Of course she does.
Are you kidding me? A Motor City?
I mean, obviously, like the whole festival world, and that there are all these festivals now that have like sprouted up. Is that one of the biggest changes over the last decade or so?
There's always, way back when, there was always a New York Film Festival. There was always the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, those were the kind of festivals you wanted to go to,
right.
And you still do, actually.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, it's become like such a industry now. I mean, you can get on the film festival circuit and it's hard to get off of it. If you've got a film that's
it really
on it.
is.
And it's really time consuming, but it's wonderful, and you kind of get a real sense of the wonderful documentary community that you're part of. And it's you see all these great films, and you get inspired by them.
You know, we had at Cinema a few years ago, we gave Ross McElwee the Legacy Award the year before you guys won for Grey Gardens. And Barbara Koppel said to him, said that she'd never met him before that night. And it was shocking to all of us, because we were like, how could these two legendary filmmakers, you know, be in this world? And we wondered, well, maybe it was just because there wasn't this, you know, ongoing series of drinking opportunities where people were meeting up and, like, you know, getting into embarrassing situations together.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I've kind of met almost everyone, but there's always a whole new. I mean, now almost everybody's making a documentary. I mean,
it's
who
true.
Isn't making a documentary? So you meet a lot of people, but oddly enough, Ross told me that when he first met me, he had come, because I did a lot of my career at Maisels Films, and he was working with Ricky Leacock in Boston, and he came to Maisels to kind of try to figure out, you know, how to get funding and everything for Sherman's March. And so he said, you know, we met way back then, right when he was about to start on that great journey that he took to do that great documentary. So
yeah.
I didn't remember it at the time. But
I'm sure that was a bigger deal for him coming to Maisels Films, and yeah.
I think it was. I think it was. So.
What was that time like at Maisels? You know, when you were making Grey Gardens and all those, you know, amazing films. I mean, was it? You know, Al likes to say now that it was collaborative. I don't know that if it was or not, but
completely.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
completely collaborative.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it must have been kind of magical.
You know, even I mean. I was quite young when we made Grey Gardens, but you know, there were really like 5 of us. It was Albert David, Ellen Hovde, who was very instrumental in making that film, Muffy Meyer, and myself, and all of us realized that it was probably going to be the most interesting film that we would ever work on, just because the footage was extraordinary. I mean, week after week, when like the Maisels were alone when they filmed in the, you know, in Grey Gardens. But Muffy and I were out in the Hamptons kind of syncing up the footage and watching it as it was being shot. And it was just like hour after hour, fascinating footage was coming in. So you kind of knew this was once in a lifetime experience. But, you know, working with the Maisels was, I mean, it was just fabulous. I mean, it was always, every shoot we went on, whether it was Grey Gardens, whether it was a corporate film, whether it was just an idea, oh, let's follow this messenger for the day, you know, and see where that takes us. It was always like, wow, today we had the best shoot we've ever had in our lives. I mean, it was just always this amazing kind of spirit that, you know, you just wanted to be making these films, and you wanted to be making them in a verite manner.
And was Al always a ladies' man? Was he always? Oh,
please, David was the ladies' man.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, because now if I'm around Al, I feel like if I'm like talking to him, I'll see him go like. And it's like some, you know, beautiful 22-year-olds like walk past. And I'm like, Al, I'm right here. In my eyes, Al.
Okay. You know, when you're shooting 16 millimeter, and especially because we always work off the zoom lens, right. You're always going in for focus, right? Every focus was on a lady's breast. Every focus. Every single focus. Right? So, you know, things were so different in the 70s than they are now. I mean, they got away with a lot of stuff. But there were always plenty of women around in the office, that's for sure. But you know what? You would go out, no matter where you were in the United States, wherever you were filming, it was always like kind of the most beautiful women in that town would join you for dinner that night. And I don't know where they found them, but, you know, they talked to everybody.
Was it because they knew the Stones? I mean, was at a certain point, was it like...
Well, that's why I got there. Yeah. I mean, I went to New York because I wanted to meet the Rolling Stones, you know, and
really? That's how you met up with Maisels?
No, I came to Maisels just by sheer serendipity. I won't tell the long story, but...
oh, we got all night. Go ahead.
I was working, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, and I just wanted to get out of Tallahassee, kind of. I just wanted to have I kind of wanted to have an adventure, so I came to New York City. And the first day I got a job at WNET. And I was there for about a year, and then traveled in Europe for a while and came back, and I got a call saying the Maisels just needed somebody to fill in for 2 weeks while their secretary was going to Switzerland on vacation. And because they had made Gimme Shelter, I couldn't wait to go. And I remember this man, you probably don't know him, David Loxton, who was, he started like Lab TV, one of the first video kind of like shows in television at the time. And I went by him at NET when I was on my way down to the Maisels company, and he said, you know, the Maisel brothers, they're incestuous lovers, you know. And I kind of like, he just threw that out. I was like kind of terrified when I got down there. And David was so, you know, if you look at all the photos of them during Salesman, they're in these Brooks Brothers suits, you know. Fashion was always very big for both of them, you know. Even though it wasn't fashionable, it was their fashion. But after Gimme Shelter, David completely changed. He was always wearing like chartreuse pants and peaked shirts and scarves.
I saw things with big scarves on David.
Always incredible sense of style, and almost everybody that worked for the company kind of adopted that sense of style too. So it was.
Maybe there needs to be like a Mad Men style, you know, the documentary filmmaking world of the '60s, fictionalized something.
It would be fascinating. It really would be. Well, this was actually the '70s.
Right.
A little bit, but you know, the whole '60s was when they kind of the whole style kind of like came in and was developed.
So let's get to the present, because you got two films here. I admit I have not seen the Wagner's Dream film, but I did see Escape Fire, which I think is terrific. And you have I don't think, spoiler alert. I actually don't think this is ruining it for anyone, but you have these scenes on a medevac plane that are just unbelievable. And how did you? I mean, are you on that plane? How did you get on? How did you get that?
I wasn't actually on that plane, but it took us over a year and a half to get permission through the military to follow this particular study that took us onto the plane. The military base in Ramstein, Germany, where you know, a lot of wounded soldiers from Afghanistan and Iraq would come in, and then they'd have to do a 9-hour trip to the United States, and so they would be heavily, heavily, heavily medicated. So because this was part of the problem of you know, soldiers becoming you know, kind of dependent on medication. They've really been trying to figure out a way to do it better, and so they wanted to try this acupuncture study, and that's what we wanted to follow. So,
but you get a bunch of other stuff while you're there, which is.
Yes, absolutely. But when we got on when it was actually Wolfgang Held, who's a fantastic cinematographer, Matt Heinemann, who is my co-director on the film, and Peter Miller, a great verite sound man, and they were the only three. There only could be 3 people on the plane. And what we see is just this incredible scene. And this is, to me, what's so phenomenal about verite is you just, if you have like an interesting subject, you're just never disappointed with what happens. And often highly dramatic things do happen. And I just believe in luck, and this was a very lucky kind of trip where this soldier who becomes like a major character in the film, he almost ODs on the plane because he is self-medicating with all of this medication.
A huge baggie full of.
I mean, he falls out of his litter, you know, onto the ground, and so the doctors on the plane have to take his bag away. And when you see the bag, it's just unbelievable. And he had been issued some morphine earlier in the day, and already half of it was gone. So this is the problem: is they're self-medicating themselves, and they're not even aware of what they're doing. And it just all plays out, you know, 30,000 miles above, you know, the
And they're all
Earth.
talking like, you know, like when they're talking about the baggie, like the like all like through the whatever comms they're using.
Yes, exactly. And they're trying to just even figure out I mean, he's mixed up all his medications, and this is what most of these men are doing, you know, boys. They're really boys, you know. And then as we see his journey as he finally weans himself off, you know.
Well, it's terrific. And when is it playing next here?
Tomorrow afternoon, it's playing at 4:30.
Yeah, no, I mean, because especially as we're on pins and needles wondering what's going to happen with the Supreme Court next week.
You know, we thought we might hear today, but then we were in Washington actually all day today.
They're going to hold us until the very last minute.
Then we heard these things like, oh no, the Supreme Court never gives an announcement until Monday, so why would you ever think it would come out on a Thursday? I mean, that's what we started hearing when we were on the Hill. But
well, they put 4 things out today, but not, you know, not major decisions. I don't think.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm not an expert.
You know more than me.
I'm not a lawyer.
Right. But we also are very lucky that Roadside Attractions picked up the film Escape
great.
Fire.
Great.
So
Fantastic.
October 5th is our national theatrical release.
Great. We have the best tweeters in the business at Roadside. Dusty will do you right. He'll be all over it.
I guess I'm going to have to learn to tweet, right?
Yeah, you do need to learn to tweet. You're
like,
the only one on the show tonight who doesn't have
I've just got
have
to
a Twitter
do it.
handle.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
soon,
Exactly.
I promise.
Awesome.
I promise.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you on the show. Ladies and
My
gentlemen,
pleasure.
Susan Froemke.
Yes.
I'll take your mic too. You can take your drink. This is delicious, Liz.
Is it good?
It is, and it is not. It's not a mint julep.
No, I've been making it up as I go along. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What the hell?
This
I'm
is-
just like throwing it all in.
It's an all new thing. It is the Motor
You know,
City.
I take my hat off to people who bartend because I've been doing this for what, like half an hour, and I'm done.
Well, you got a half hour more
But
to go.
also, I'm drinking. I don't
Yes.
think many bartenders are allowed to drink, but this is pretty good.
No, haven't you ever bought a bartender a drink?
Pardon?
Haven't you ever bought a bartender a drink?
Many a drink.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm usually, when I was living in New York, it used to be the buy the 3 drinks, then wait for the buyback. So you would get one back from a bartender, and then I'd leave.
There's this.
It's a Scottish thing.
There's this bar that I don't go as much as I used to. There's a bar in LA called the Smog Cutter that's run by these Thai women, and they are extremely aggressive about that you will buy them drinks. And they then get completely inappropriate. So you buy them a bunch of drinks, and one night one of the waitresses got up on the bar and pulled up her shirt and said, "Smell my belly button," and everybody was required to smell the belly button.
I am not doing that. There's a
we-
line.
So
There's a
I'm
definite
saying we got a
line.
half hour to go. I'm hoping we can work up to something here.
Yeah.
How's it going back on the corner, DJs?
That's a great bar. I've been there.
The Smog Cutter. That's right. Jason lives in LA.
Jason's gonna do it later.
We could hang out a little bit.
My thirst level is wildly out of control right now, and
And I'm sorry, who are you? What are you? Where do you come from? I've been buying you drinks. I'm about to bring you more drinks.
We've ordered our second round.
I'm just pressing the spacebar button here.
And also, you guys had that whole huge bottle of wine that you were chugging. What happened to that? What level is that at now?
It's not
That's
too
for
bad.
later.
You still got some?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's for us to
Our
talk
next
about.
guest on the show tonight is film critic for the Washington Post. Please welcome Ann Hornaday.
Woohoo!
Make up your mind. Please don't waste my time. I'm gonna try to rewind.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is just surreal.
You've already been. It is pretty surreal. What if you've already been doing some work today? You also, I think, interviewed Heidi and Rachel.
I did.
today.
Well, we had a great time.
How was that?
It was.
They're trouble, those
fantastic.
girls.
They are trouble in the best way.
Yeah.
Enjoying
And
it?
thank
You need another
so
one?
much.
Just
I
let me
can't
know.
wait. I'm like, sipping. Oh yeah.
It's good.
Well done. Well done, madam. No, it was a fabulous panel. We had a good crowd and great questions. I think I see some people in the crowd tonight who were there earlier, and it was like a master class.
Yeah, they're.
in visual storytelling, because they are so wonderful. Their films are really great examples of how to tell a story.
And they one of the things I love about their films is that they really get a sense of place.
They sure do.
I always love that in
Yeah,
films
and
when
they're
you feel
very
like
densely-
you get
yeah.
that.
And they're very densely layered and not always just on the nose. It's not just talking heads telling you what to, leading you through. They're very evocative and poetic, and so yeah, it was a good afternoon. We had a good time.
So when you're seeing a film like DETROPIA that has it has obviously there's some great verite moments in it. The
Yes.
scenes with the mayor's office, the scenes with the unions, but also has this very poetic, surreal tone in some ways. When you're writing about it, do you think about it in different ways than you think about something that is maybe more of an issue-based talking heads film? And how do you convey those kinds of things to your readers?
That's an ongoing, I think, issue with writing about documentary and perceiving documentary, because I think too often content trumps form.
Right.
And
or a
people,
good subject.
Exactly. And so even if, when a film has an irresistible subject, usually human, at its center, the formal elements tend to kind of fall away. And I feel like, one of my roles as a critic is to remind people that formal elements matter, and that these are all choices and aesthetic choices. And so, whether I like them or, you know, I can approve of them or not, but at least just to remind people that that was me. That was me, right?
I think that was me.
This is
Sorry.
totally you. Yeah.
I think I just gave
It's
myself
like
an
as it
electric
goes
shock.
down your
It's the demon rum.
yeah, into your stomach.
So yeah, that's a really good. So yes, I wouldn't write about it differently, but I would be probably talking about it a lot more just because they take so much care in those elements.
Yeah, no, I think that one of the things I noticed, and I love your writing, and not just because you were a fan of one of my films, but I'm although that was an exceptional review. Is that like when it came into documentary, I noticed a lot of what passed for film criticism about documentary was summing up what happens in the film, and it was just like, well, I don't even need to see the film now because now I know everything about it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I just have to say, my first professional critic's job was at the Austin American-Statesman, and my Austin peeps are here tonight: Andy Garrison and Deb Lewis. Representing.
This is going to be a totally regional show tonight
because we're Trash Dance because it's fantastic.
We're going from Detroit to Austin, and we're going to make our way to Iowa in a little bit.
But one of my best lessons occurred in Austin from Elizabeth Peters, who ran the Austin Film Society down there, and she called me up one Friday and said, "Hey, as a friend, I just want you to know when you're writing a review, please." It wasn't just don't give away the ending. It was, don't give away what happens in the, let me discover. And it was like a wake-up call, because I think synopsizing is the great crutch of reviews. And when you're reading one, test that out, see how big a chunk of that review is just pure synopsis and summing up. And I really try, not only because it's kind of a cheat, but I think it takes the pleasure away from the viewer, of discovery. It's like, but it's hard. I mean, that makes it a lot more challenging to kind of try to, so it becomes an evocative the review is an evocative thing rather than a informational one, per se.
There was a time when I was writing a little bit online, and thank God that's passed. But when I would write, I would actually find it sometimes more interesting to write about films that I didn't love, but that had really interesting elements that I thought needed to be discussed.
Yes.
And finding a way to not be dismissive of that, because I didn't feel dismissive. Obviously, I wasn't dismissive of the film itself.
Sure.
I actually wanted to have lots of conversations about the film. I'm curious if do you have that experience where you see something and you go like, that didn't work, and the ways it didn't work are really interesting, and I want to talk about that a lot.
True, although I think then the temptation, and I would imagine this would be a temptation for any kind of filmmaker writing about film, the temptation to rewrite, to kind of say, well, I would have done, or, and it's kind of like what you need to focus on is what's in, what was the filmmaker trying to achieve, and then did he or she achieve it, and then was it worth doing? That's actually, I think, somebody told me that was what Goethe said. I might be the only person tonight who quotes Goethe. I just want you to know
Don,
that.
over to you.
Just saying. But it's really a good way to kind of judge things on their merits and not impose your subjectivity on, like what you would have done or second guess. But I think your point is really well taken, that I increasing, and it might be age, like where I just am more I'm so aware of my own flaws and how hard this is, what you guys do, that if there is something to value, please say so. It's sort of like that, these aren't easy endeavors, and it's, nobody sets out to make a bad movie, and especially in nonfiction, I think. But again, then you do sort of fall into that trap of talking about the issue instead of the art.
And you want to treat it like a real art, which it is.
Exactly.
And if you don't take it seriously enough to say that like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, then where are you?
Give it the dignity it deserves.
So we had this conversation, and I found out you're from Des Moines.
I am.
Which is very exciting.
We don't rock like that in Des Moines.
And how long were you in Des Moines? Did you go to school in Iowa?
Longer than you. I did.
Yes, longer than me. Yes, that's true.
Because AJ's done some time in that.
I've done a little time there. Yeah.
We might do some time. If you're going to come back this year.
I will probably be back this year. So should we have some deep
tent,
fried butter together in
tent,
August?
Baby.
Yeah.
I grew up there. So I went to public school, public elementary school, public high school. Yeah, the whole schmear. We don't say schmear in Des Moines either.
It's a great town, and
it is great.
I mean, I just really, I like Iowa generally, but Des Moines just is. It's a very nice Yeah, a lot of really interesting people there, a lot of great little neighborhoods. And
really lovely neighborhoods, and very, there's a whole sort of, and I think most towns, they all have their sophisticates, and there's a lot of art there. I had a terrific sort of early education. They have a great art center, art museum that I went to often and loved and still love to this day. Great symphony, and so it was a terrific and a great public education. Like your Iowa Basic Skills tests started at the University of Iowa in Iowa City, but they just had a fantastic public education system.
Iowa City is amazing. There's there's a burger place there that is kind of.
And the airliner, is the airliner still there? Do you ever go there? The bar?
Is that the?
My
Oh yeah, actually,
parents went
I do think I ended up there one night. It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, I'll take you on a pub crawl through my old home.
Oh yeah, no, let's do that.
No,
there's East Village. Is like there are a lot of.
That is up. That's totally past my time. I mean, I was long gone by the time that. This is the new gentrified.
Well, no, the Locust Tap. The Locust Tap. I don't know if you've been there, but that's still shitty. I mean, it's terrible.
And the
it's
Greenwood.
Really,
Mine was
really
the Greenwood.
bad.
The Greenwood Lounge. Did you ever go down there by the Ingersoll Theater on Ingersoll? Oddly enough.
I don't know if that's something, but there's a really weird like biker bar down there that's really fun.
There's the Greenwood. There's Peggy.
This is like now it's reaching into like really Des Moines bars. Like
Can I just tell you?
This is fascinating. What time is that next film start? Jeez Louise.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I am here tonight because of the Maisels. I just want to bring things full circle.
Yeah,
I never met Susan, but when I was freelancing in New York, I was writing for a bunch of different publications, not necessarily about movies, and they started this new magazine called Premiere. And April Bernard, who is this fantastic poet and fantastic human being, was one of the editors, and she was editing the front of the book, and they were assigning profiles of filmmakers, and she assigned me to do Al. And it was, I think, shortly after David had died, and I was so sorry not to have met him, but I went in, had a wonderful interview with Al, and as I was leaving, Joe Berlinger, who was kind of the communications guy, pulled me aside and said, Bruce over there, we're going to do our own film, and when we do, could we call you and would you write about it? And I said, sure. And it was years later that they had finally finished Brothers Keeper, and I saw it and it blew me away. And I wrote a story for the Arts and Leisure section of the New York Times about it, and that is when I really started writing about film, in a more dedicated way. So I just had to bring that full circle a little bit.
That's great. Do you have any Detroit stories that then you can really like?
Exactly. Well, my husband's from Detroit, so I've done some time there, and I think that Heidi and Rachel. I mean, there's this understandable, I think, frustration among people who live in Detroit with this kind of fetishistic ruin, this fascination with Detroit as a living ruin. And there's this whole visual rhetoric that's kind of developed around that is really bordering on cliche and bordering, on it's kind of troubling.
Right.
And so I think they had to kind of navigate that because you need to be honest. I mean, it does exist. These places, these spaces do exist, but without kind of falling into that trap. And I think they did a really terrific job.
No, I agree. So did you on the show tonight.
Hey, mister.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ann Hornaday. Thank you so much. Of course, you can take the drink. Don doesn't want your seconds. It is so good. Are you handing out to the crowd as well? It's so good.
Of Maker's Mark, by the way. I don't know whether that's a good or bad sign.
Wait, what'd you say?
I've just gone through an entire bottle of Maker's Mark.
That's fantastic. We might need another. This is great. Well, our final guest. I'm saving one of my favorites for last. Please welcome from NBR the one and only Mr. Don Gonyea. I feel like it's been hours since I've seen you.
It has. It has. I will not quote Goethe, but I can quote Herman Cain.
Yes, indeed. Please do. How are things?
Good, good.
You just got back from a few days with Mr. Romney.
I was on the Romney bus tour.
Right, and how was that? Because it seemed, just from what I've been reading, it seemed like it started out great. They had all the theatrics, how they wanted it to look seemed to be all set up, and then it just seemed like there were a series of what had been like an incredibly well-run machine in terms of no leaks, nobody's like talking like off the record. Suddenly we're hearing, you know, about this Rick Scott thing where he's telling governors not to talk about, you know, the economy doing well. There's all this VP leaking that I don't know if you were part of that.
I was there the day the Mark Rubio story broke twice.
Yeah, I mean that seemed insane.
Do you guys know that story? Mark
No,
Rubio
tell this story.
It was an interesting bus tour, but it was far from blockbuster in terms of news. And the campaign seemed to want it that way. I mean, they got a good flurry of coverage the first couple of days. But to sustain that, you have to give us a little something, because we're not going to keep writing about the same stump speech over and over and the same tour, even though it's transplanted here and transplanted here. So I think their maiden goal was, well, and I talked about this on the air yesterday morning or the morning before. They wanted a lot of good local press. And sure enough, the whole bus tour ended with Governor Romney and his wife back home in Michigan, where they both grew up, in Holland, Michigan, which is really a gorgeous, gorgeous place if you've ever been to the Lake Michigan shoreline of western Michigan. And he did his last event, and the sun is starting to go down, and we're getting that great golden light. And spontaneously, we're told, and I think it actually might have been, Romney decides to take a walk on the beach with his wife. So they're taking, you know, this walk on the beach, and front page of all of the Michigan papers the next day. A pretty spectacular shot, and
of this lovely couple walking, strolling arm in arm.
Money can and does buy a lot of things in a campaign, but you can't quite buy a beautiful front page photo like that on the Grand Rapids Press or whatever it was. So they got a lot of that. The other thing is you kind of got the sense that he still needs to get his chops down as a retail candidate. So much of you've been working on the Iowa film, and we've been talking so much about Iowa. Romney kind of almost skipped Iowa this year. He was there, but he was not there like Rick Santorum was. Rick Santorum hit all 99 counties before, you know, before the fall and all that.
And he seemed to be down to just a couple of, I mean, you know, in watching Mitt fairly close, it's a lot of, thank you. Oh, thanks, guys. All right, guys. I mean, it's like he's not.
Exactly.
He doesn't have that thing where he feels like he's actually physically taking a moment to connect with what the person has said, or
yeah. I mean, he went to the state fair and he did this soapbox at the state fair, which is the stage the Des Moines Register sets up with hay bales around and all that kind of stuff, and appeared there. But you didn't really feel like he was kind of really attending the fair, like Santorum clearly was, and like even Sarah Palin was, even though she ended up not jumping in. So there was a sense of this bus ride is a chance for him to kind of get his chops down and kind of reveal a more folksy Mitt Romney and talk to small town people, and if he did interviews, they were with local press and not with us, and to do 3 or 4 or 5 events in a day, which he is going to have to do eventually. And these are all states where he needs to do well if he's going to be the president. So it almost felt like a dress rehearsal.
Is he, I mean, but it seems that now that like it's now gotten into the point where, because there were, even though he wasn't having a lot of those moments, there was the moment like where a woman can come up to him and hand him a corn dog and he eats it. You know, like there's less of those kinds of opportunities for him, and as we get past the convention, it'll be even less. So where does
casual interaction?
Yeah, where is it never going to happen?
I think it'll never happen. And I realize I didn't tell the story of Rubio. ABC News broke the story Tuesday morning that Mark Rubio was not being vetted, was not being questioned, was not being checked out. And that's a pretty big story, that the guy who's been on everybody's short list is not even being asked to fill out the questionnaire. So whether or not he's a serious candidate, suddenly it was like this is a slight to the entire Latino and Hispanic community in the country.
Which they have trouble with already.
Yeah, that you might be trying to appeal to by having him on the list. So suddenly he's off the list. And so by midday, Romney's out. doing a rare statement to us, kind of saying, oh no, he's being vetted absolutely, saying that even as he's talked about not wanting,
that he's not going to say anything about the vetting process, and suddenly he's talking about it.
Right.
And also because that same day, someone, again, an off-the-record source said that they weren't going to have any women because they didn't want to have a Palin experience.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, I mean, it's like it was a kind of just a disastrous day of leaks.
Not to talk about that question when you've talked about the Rubio question, and I mean, he won't talk about it a lot.
Right.
But the spontaneous encounter is a good example of kind of what passes for it these days. We stopped in DeWitt, Michigan, which is kind of central lower Michigan. It's about an hour north of Lansing, if you know Michigan. But, well, if you know Michigan, it's I got to do it. What Michigan is, it's right here, smack dab in the middle of the state.
Right.
You know? And he went to this place called the Sweetylicious Bakery, local bakery, tiny town. Except the woman who runs the bakery was a longtime political operative for Governor John Engler, Michigan's longtime Republican governor. So, so he goes into her bakery, but she's savvy enough to know that the press bus is going to pull up. So she jumps on the press bus before we even get off. And I can tell you, the average person at the diner you pull into in Lamars, Iowa, doesn't know which is the press bus and how to get on it.
Right.
And on the press bus, she passed out miniature versions of the cherry apple Abraham Lincoln pie that she and the governor were going to make in a few moments. So, you know, gift-wrapped pie for the press before they even get off the bus. So he goes in and he makes the pie. And again, that picture was in USA Today and the Washington Post and all over the web.
Right.
And it looked like kind of a casual moment, but everything was kind of so picture perfect, you know.
Right.
And then there's a couple hundred people out on the street for him to make remarks to.
Yeah, it would be interesting because obviously I wasn't in Iowa in 2008, but he, you know, what I love about Iowa is that there's the sloppiness that can happen because you don't have the money yet or you don't have the organization yet and you can't control every situation that you're in, and so you find yourself, you know, kind of in things where obviously that's not going to happen.
Right.
And maybe that happened to Romney in 2008, and he had a lot of those kinds of experiences. But it was so controlled this time that he was clearly coming in pretending he was already the nominee, and everything was going to be just, you know, it was already picture perfect.
Correct.
As opposed to everybody else that was just like, you know,
picture perfect, but not gaffe-free, not reality-free. There was the famous moment that is in your film, and it was all over NPR and everywhere else, where he's giving his speech at the Iowa State Fair, and there are some Democratic activists in the front row asking about the Social Security Trust Fund and whether or not that will, you know, go toward the deficit, and all these kind of very specific, pointed questions. And it's where Romney uttered the famous line, "Corporations are people."
Right.
You know,
my friend.
My friend. my friend. And now,
also,
everybody's
what
capable.
I should love even more is that at the end of it, he actually is the sum up of that is human beings, my friend.
Yes, that's right.
Which is like it's like the great punctuation on that entire thing.
Now, if you look at the whole thing, it's not quite as bad as what he said, but things are going to get taken out of context. And in the same way that Obama's private sector is doing fine, if you look at the whole context, you go, yeah, I kind of get what he's saying, but it's still going to be used against you. So Romney is vulnerable to that, and perhaps more than a lot of people, because he didn't do what Rick Santorum did and what Michelle Bachmann did and what Tim Pawlenty tried to do, but he just never got any traction at all, which is hold town hall after town hall and go to pizza parlor after pizza parlor and go to the VFW and show up, you know, get your hair cut and talk to people as they come in and have thousands of unscripted interactions with individuals, and sometimes it's a local reporter who walks up to you and shouts the question and they didn't know you'd be there, and sometimes it's a national reporter, but most of the time it's somebody from Des Moines or Pella or Clive or Sioux City or wherever. And Romney didn't have nearly as much as that, and his town hall meetings were even more scripted. You mentioned
Pawlenty, and so I imagine that it maybe not anymore, but at least for a few months in the early part of this year, there were many nights at the Pawlenty home where Mary walked in on Tim and he was just like this, and she was like, Come on, you made your choice. You got out. I don't, stop wallowing in it.
So the Ames straw poll was August what?
It's August 9th or something?
9th or 18th or something like that. And this is a good, and the caucus is until January. So, you know, September, October, November, December, 5 months, almost 6 months, 5 months until
and
the caucus.
Everyone ends up being in front at some point, and it could have been Tim.
Herman Cain.
I mean, he's bland as hell, but like it could have been Tim.
You have to think he would have gotten
everybody else did
a look-see. Everybody else did. Everybody else did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is boring though.
Now there is a question though. He is boring, but that's part of his charm and it's part of his pitch.
Yeah, no, he's Mr. Even keeled.
But he was in it to win, and it's not clear the others were.
Right.
So he kind of played by the usual rules. If you're in it to win, and if you can't demonstrate a certain amount of support, either in polls or in a straw poll, which then allows you to raise money, which then allows you to buy more ads, which gets you more support. He couldn't kind of get that big wheel going.
Right.
So when he realized he couldn't, he did what candidates have done forever. But there must have been moments. There must have been moments, yeah.
So that thing is, we've talked a little, I'm like nerding out about Iowa with Ann, and there's obviously like New Hampshire has some similar things, but I haven't spent time there. I'm just wondering, like, once that's done, and now you're just randomly going places, is it as fun as when you're like where you're in these states that are always these first states? Maybe they won't be in the future, but
yeah, there's nothing like Iowa and New Hampshire, and even South Carolina. Those are the three that you go to for a year in advance, because they're going to get a lot of attention. They're getting a lot of attention from the candidates, and once you get beyond that, it's Florida and and Michigan, and they're not getting a lot of attention because they don't even know if they're going to survive to get there. So all the resources are going to those places. So we're going there, and you get to know, the governor's press secretary and the county chair and the assistant to the county chair and the Tea Party person out in the western corner of the state, and you get to know people, and you're truly on a first name basis with them.
And they're very welcoming. They're
very welcoming because they know that we play a big part in their being first. Yeah. It's not that we have any say in it, but part of being first is welcoming the whole shebang.
Right.
And the national media is part of that, and we spend money in their hotels and eat in their diners and and everything else. So people, it's not just the operatives who know you before you call and are glad you called, but the average person on the street. You walk up to them in a diner, and it's a very rude thing to stick a mic in some stranger's face and say, I want to ask you what you believe about politics and religion and all these subjects that are supposed to be taboo in polite conversation.
Right. Not dinner conversation.
And over their eggs when they're on their way to work, and it's only 6:15 or 6:30 in the morning, you know. But that's what we do, and they kind of go, oh, they're here now. So they're very polite and they're gracious.
Yeah.
And they talk. I will tell you, though, I was back in Iowa about a month ago, and I was kind of working the diner circuit and everything else. And I went there after Obama announced his support for same-sex marriage, his personal support for it. I thought, well, it's legal in Iowa, so let's go to Iowa and get their take on this. And it wasn't the topic. It was that I was a reporter, and I was there when I was supposed to have been long gone. And I encountered
They're done with you. They're done with your kind,
Gonyea. Yeah. So I noticed a real kind of unexpected surliness. Kind of broke my heart.
Interesting. That's terrible.
Excuse me, are you going to drink that drink?
I'm going to sip on that drink. But thank you.
I will say one of my first days.
Somebody might come from the audience and rip it off the table.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that gentleman sitting at the front by the name of Ryan Harrington. Not counting drinks or anything.
My answers are too long, I think.
I will say that one of my first days in Iowa, an older couple came up to me and they were like, "Are you here? Are you here with the press?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm filming this Michelle Bachmann event." And they said, "Well, if you'd like, you can stand on the hood of our car." And I was like, well, this is the sweetest place I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about Detroit a little bit, because you're from Detroit. You love Detroit. We talked about DETROPIA. We want to bring everything full circle tonight. When you go back to Detroit, because obviously there's been so much talk about you know, what's happening in Detroit. I mean, what do you see happening there?
I do not have an answer to the question that has been posed about Detroit for a couple of decades now, which is, is Detroit the first major American city to kind of go beyond the point of no return? You know, I mean, it is a very troubled place. But somebody today was telling me they stayed at the gorgeous, newly restored Book Cadillac Hotel downtown. And they were saying, but around it, there's just this wasteland. It's terrifying. And I said, well, you know, that's not really wasteland. You could have gone anywhere. But I'm from there, so I know where you can go. But her perspective was, you got this beautiful thing and nothing around it. My perspective was, this thing wasn't there 5 years ago. It was something that was waiting for the wrecking ball. It was this kind of very sad remnant of a once gorgeous big city hotel. That said, she is correct, and she is probably more objective than I am about kind of what is around it. The city government, I mean, the mayor is a decent guy now. It's Dave Bing, the NBA Hall of Famer, and he's, you know, been a successful businessman in the steel business ever since he left the NBA. But the city council is still, you know, problematic, and the last mayor went to jail. You know, so it's, I mean, there are big institutional problems. General Motors is still downtown, and General Motors is alive, last time we checked.
Is this national campaign to talk about Detroit is coming back? You'll hear those, you know, the roar of our engines. You know, we're gonna. I mean, that's like America isn't gonna die. It's basically like America is not going to die. Detroit is not going to die. I mean, it's incredibly powerful. But I'm wondering if that's in Detroit. Are people feeling like, you know, that's just an ad campaign, or that they're feeling like, yeah, no, we're not. We're like.
It depends how you define Detroit. I mean, if you define Detroit as the city limits, then that's a very troubled place. But the metropolitan area, I mean, you kind of have the donut hole effect, you know, that you see in some other places, just not quite as extreme as you see it in Detroit. But there is a sense that the car business has survived, and that it can make profits at far fewer sales, and that they're going to be okay. And that alone has done something to people's attitudes there. They see fewer, you know, houses for sale on their block. Houses are starting to sell. It's still not, hasn't rebounded. I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna or anything, but those ads, I think, do accurately reflect people's attitudes. And again, that's kind of for Michigan as a whole. Right. It doesn't necessarily reflect kind of the economics, you know.
It's a question.
There's a question. Oh, sorry.
Anyway, if there's another serious downturn, Detroit always feels it first and comes out of it last. So it's a very fragile thing.
We've never had a question before, but Yancey, you know, you can interrupt any time.
Mm-hmm.
City of Detroit and what that means for the possible rebound of the city, but also for the lives of people who are trying to hang on there with their water bills and their electricity and their property taxes. You know, sort of like what is the experience of an average person living in Detroit right now, with the specter of the person that they voted for to be their mayor, not actually being the person in charge of the city?
Right. I don't know that I have a good answer for that, because I don't want to venture down a path when I moved from Detroit a dozen years ago, and that's when I ceased to be NPR's Detroit bureau. So I know a lot of this as a Detroiter or as an expatriate Detroiter, and as a consumer of news about it, and, you know, reading the newspapers and all that. I mean, I can tell you people there who I know and who I encounter have very mixed feelings about it. There are people in the suburbs who are huge Detroit boosters who think it's just what the city may need. No, exactly, exactly. And then the other part of the answer is the people there feel like it's just a further disenfranchisement, and it's taking away their vote, in effect. I think we'll know soon enough You know, because I think it's there's a reasonably good chance it's going to happen. You know, because the law now allows it. And I have to admit, I don't know where the tipping point is or how close we are. Sorry, I keep doing this.
No, it's a good look for you.
So I can see you. Yeah. But you get to one of the key questions there, and I apologize for not having a good answer. I'm just not current enough.
Let me ask you one last quick question, and going back to our previous topic of the election, had Santorum been able to win Michigan, was that a different race altogether if he wins Michigan?
Yes, and it scared Romney, but a scare isn't enough to derail a campaign that is inevitable, which it largely was before that, and absolutely was after that. If Rick Santorum is kicking himself at night, and it's not clear that he is.
Is it over the president is a snob? Is that, I mean, did that, was that one of the things that killed him in Michigan?
I don't know that he's that self-reflective, you know, that reflective on whether or not he should have said this or that. And the reality is, candidates say things, and he kind of took it back. Said he shouldn't have said it.
He gets passionate.
Yeah, but
right.
No, but
he says things he shouldn't sometimes.
He was so close.
Yeah,
in Michigan,
he was really
and
close.
that's what he loses sleep over. So when you're that close, it was any one thing.
Yeah.
It was you should have spent an extra day in Holland or in Zealand or
I think it's
in
the
Manistee or
I think
any
it's
of
the
these
debate and then the president is snob, because I think it threw him off. Every day he was talking about the president as snob, he wasn't talking about manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
And that was his message. It was actually going to help him do well in Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing I found with Romney, we made 3 stops in Michigan this week, is the crowds were modest at best. They never filled the place that they had roped off or barricaded off. And as often as not, the person in the crowd said they were for Santorum first.
Right.
Now, again, this is not a scientific sample. It's walking up to, 10, 15 people at each event. But even though it's Romney's home state and he has such deep ties, and his father is still a beloved figure there,
yeah.
even though it was a long time ago, people still seem to be more driven by dislike of Obama than love for Mitt Romney.
Well, we'll always have Ricky.
Yes.
Yes.
He'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Don Gonyea. I could do this all day. Don Gonyea. You don't have to get up and leave because we'll say goodnight. Thanks tonight to Heidi, Ewing, Rachel, Grady from DETROPIA, to Susan Froemke, to Ann Hornaday, of course to Don Gonyea, to our DJs, Justice, Charlotte Cook, Jason Tippett. Go see Only the Young. It's fucking incredible. And of course, Liz Ogilvie, the mixologist with the mostest. Thanks to Silverdocs. Scott, you rule. Thanks for being an amazing tech director.
Yes.
That's it for 2012. Good night.
Night, CJ.